Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Elville Associates on our webinar series. I am Jeff Stauffer, and I'm the Community Relations Director here at the firm, and also direct the firm's Client Care Program. Also, welcome to our new webinar experience. We have a new platform through GoToWebinar. I've tested it out a bit. I like it a lot. I hope you do too. So we'll work through any new things together. There are slides for today in the handout section, and also a sample Client Care Program agreement, if you'd like to review that at some point, and then we'll take some questions at the end. So today's conversation is about something pretty simple, but it's really important. And the question is, will your estate plan actually work when your family needs it? And we're going to explore that question through the lens of the Elville Client Care Program, structured stewardship for planning that endures. And as always, you've seen this before more than likely. This is not meant for This is meant for education only, and is not intended as legal advice. It can't be a substitute for legal counseling. So any legal questions, make sure that you speak to an attorney about that. I am definitely not an attorney, though I'm around a lot every day. So most estate plans, they are created thoughtfully. Clients take their time. They ask questions and they make very intentional decisions, which we talk about a lot here at the firm. But what we've seen over time is the fact that very few plans are maintained with the same level of intention. And estate planning is not a one-time transaction or legal event. It's a structure that has to evolve alongside your life, your finances, changes in the law, your family, your health. So the real question isn't how your plan was drafted. The real question is whether it will remain aligned over time and aligned with your goals and your circumstances that may change over time. So quietly, over time, here's what we see happening or having happened in the past. Retirement plans, they get updated, but they're not coordinated with the plan. New assets are acquired in different ways, but they're never aligned with your estate plan. Trustees move, they age, they pass away, they become less appropriate for other reasons, which are many. Children, they grow into the roles of being a trustee or a personal representative, for example, but they're never educated on what those roles are. What does it mean to be a trustee or a personal representative, for example? And tax laws evolve, but none of this happens dramatically. It happens very gradually. It's kind of like the drift that I alluded to. And that's what makes it kind of dangerous, because drift is very subtle, but the consequences are not so subtle. And most estate plans, they don't fail because they were poorly drafted, like I said. They fail because they weren't maintained over time. They set them aside, you put them in a drawer or a fire safe and forget about them. And that's kind of natural because no one was reviewing alignment. Funding was incomplete. The family may have become disengaged over time. Advisors didn't work together as another good example, because the plan became something that just kind of existed and was there. It's kind of like just pieces of paper. If you look at your estate plan, it's just some pieces of paper. That's not a living, breathing estate plan. It needs to be actively managed. So it kind of just sat there over time and got stale. And I would say that neglect is the primary threat to your estate plan not working as it needs to when the time comes. And so there's two ways to approach estate planning. Well, there's several ways, but there's two that we would consider here at the firm. You can be an owner of your plan. So having ownership, meaning the documents are signed, they're placed in a binder, they're assumed that they're complete. So kind of a set it and forget it situation. Or you can be a steward of the plan, stewardship. So this is where the plan is reviewed, it's aligned, it's discussed. There's kind of a recalibration that takes place over time. So intentional families, they choose stewardship over being owners of their estate plan, because they understand something we would consider very important, and that is a plan that is not maintained will eventually fall out of alignment with your goals and your changing situation. So in 2016, which seems like a long time ago, I guess it was 10 years at this point, our firm stepped back and asked a rhetorical question. What happens to our clients in 5 or 10 or 15 years after they sign their documents? And that question changed everything, how we approach planning here at Elville & Associates. And what we found, it wasn't really surprising, but it was important. And even among our most vested and thoughtful clients, that funding drift occurred, beneficiary designations changed, trustees, they aged, laws changed, that's for sure, and communication diminished on many different levels. But the documents, they stayed the same. So life moves forward, but the plan did not. And do you ever wish you could say, life, hey, now let's just slow down for just a minute or a day or a year? Time goes by very, very quickly. And I always think that the only constant in life is change, right? So I think you probably agree with that. So this meeting that we went up to in Boston at the Client Care Academy, it gave us a conclusion that estate planning has to be relationship driven. It has to be structured. It has to be periodically reviewed. It must be. It has to be integrated with your financial life and your financial plan, and also should be supported by education, which is a foundation of what we do here at Elville & Associates. And also it should be supported and anchored in accountability. And that's the foundation of the Elville Client Care Program. So at the center of all this is alignment. An unfunded trust is a beautifully drafted failure. And that sounds dramatic to say, but it's very true. I know that the structure may be perfect, but if the assets are not aligned with it, the structure doesn't function. That's the way these matters work. And you've invested your time, your energy, hard-earned money on a plan that will not work as intended, and we don't want that. So each year, through our client care program, your attorney, our asset alignment and funding coordinator, her name is Rebecca, reviews your real estate, your retirement accounts, brokerage accounts, business interests, life insurance, beneficiary designations, and more. All of those might not apply to your situation because every situation is different. Because even small misalignments, they can lead to unintended probate. So if you have a trust-based plan to avoid probate, among other reasons, and your assets are not aligned and your funding is not correct, then you will have that unintended probate, which is a plan failure in many ways. There'll be tax inefficiencies, and there'll be confusion in the administration process, which nobody wants to have happen. So having your plan aligned preserves your intentions. Program includes 2 hours of attorney time annually. So this is not extra. It's very intentional. It creates structured access for, let's call it a recalibration of your plan for your attorney and you to sit down and go through everything that we've talked about so far. Because life changes for sure. Families change, financial positions change, various risks in life that happen. They change your risk tolerance. And when clients know they have access to an attorney and a law firm, they engage earlier. They become continually engaged and their planning is intentional. And earlier conversations, they avoid problems from festering and growing over time. So over, let's just say, a 20-year time horizon, if you think about what's happened to you in the past 20 years. I'm now thinking about it. A lot has changed. marriage, divorce, business transitions, buying or selling a business, new grandchildren or children, health changes, trustee changes, changes in the law, again. And so I would argue that no static plan can keep up with the hopefully dynamic and changing lives that we lead without a review on a periodic basis. Another pillar, I would say, of the client care program is education. And if you're on this webinar, you know that we focus on education a lot here at Elville & Associates. And it's one thing that really drew me to the firm 13 years ago. That's how long I've been here. I understand that things are done differently. And that's become even more true over time. So plans, they fail when fiduciaries don't understand their roles. And so each year we offer quarterly education events for our members, their families, and their financial advisors. We welcome guests to come. And we have one coming up on April 11th, actually 2 Saturdays from now. We're looking forward to it. It's held at Anne Arundel Community College and the Arnold campus. And over the years, we've discussed topics like trustee education, longevity planning, Medicare updates, tax briefings, market discussions, and much more. And if you think about it, we've had this program for, I think, 11 years at this point, 10 years. So we've done dozens of these on a quarterly basis over that time. Informed families, they make better decisions. Informed fiduciaries, they execute more effectively. And other services that come with the client care program, they include DocuBank, which provides immediate hospital access to your healthcare and advanced medical directives with a membership card and access your healthcare professionals can access your advanced medical directive. The last thing you want to have happen when you have an emergency or a crisis is wondering, where in the world is my advanced medical directive? DocuBank takes care of all that. Everplans also, which is a secure digital archive to store all of your important and essential information. And we've been approached by countless companies like Everplans over the years to sell us on their product instead of Everplans. And we always find that Everplans is the best digital archive out there, hands down. So we haven't switched and we're not going to be switching, even though a lot of other places would like us to. And also we coordinate with your broader advisory team. So you don't just have an attorney, right? You probably have a CPA, you have a financial advisor, you have an insurance professional, maybe an aging life care manager, or many more, depending on your situation, how simple or complex it might be. And so I think that advice that is fragmented, that's coming from all different places, is risky. And different perspectives from professionals is fine, but if they never collaborate for their mutual client, that is risk, and you want to avoid that. You want everyone communicating and on the same page. So we always encourage communication and having you meet with your attorney and have the financial advisor involved, have the insurance professional involved, aging life care manager, and more. Have them involved in the conversation, and we can proactively reach out to that team of yours. And we can be the quarterback, or we can work with whoever the quarterback is and make sure that your estate plan works with the rest of your life. So integrated planning, it creates a layer of protection. So, and we reinforce all of this through ongoing engagement. As I mentioned, we have our quarterly education events, our yearly big client event, which is November 18th this year. And we also have a social event every year. They're a lot of fun. We've gone to wineries, theaters, oil games, other sporting events over the years. Last fall, late last fall and early December, we went to see Hello Dolly at the historic Olney Theater, and that was a blast. Had so much fun. Everybody thoroughly enjoyed themselves, and they've redone the Olney Theater in stages, and it was really a great time. So if I had a vote, which I might, we might go back there again this fall for another show, or maybe another oral game, or we're always open to ideas. We would love your feedback about what you'd be interested in having for a social event. So these are all of what I just mentioned. They're ongoing touch points. So being engaged with your law firm and the firm that did your estate plan and is working with you on an ongoing basis, it reinforces that intentional behavior that is the ideal that we strive for. And without a client care program, what we typically see, our attorneys primarily, are outdated fiduciaries. Assets are misaligned or missed in full. Funding is incomplete. Maybe it was complete at one point, but things have changed. So now it's not complete. Trustees are confused. They don't understand their roles. Lack of education, which we focus on here at the firm. An increased cost, administration, if it's not aligned and people don't know what they're doing. People try to do administration on their own. That adds to the cost of administration, which you want to avoid for sure. And certainly emotional strain. So I would argue that ownership without being a steward or stewardship creates unnecessary risk. And with this, again, structured stewardship, if you choose to do that, what we see is your alignment of your estate plan is maintained. Your assets are fully accounted for as to who they're going to and when they go to that person or persons or organizations of your choice. And we see that decisions are made more proactively. We see families that are informed. We see advisors collaborating, and the risk is reduced. So it's the difference between having a plan and having a plan that works. There's a big difference, a big difference. So the membership on a yearly basis is $940 a year. This is not a financial conversation though. If you're on this webinar, you can probably afford that, and that's no problem. The real value is in the clarity that you get. It's in the continuity that you'll receive, the reduced burden that you'll have for your family and your beneficiaries, and the increased confidence that your family is going to have as they're engaged with the firm and educated and understand their roles and know that their estate plan is going to work. Your estate plan is going to work as intended when it needs to work, hopefully many years from now. And I'll be the first person to say, and very honestly, the program is not for everyone. First person to say that is me. Our members are people that tend to be people that they value structure over being assumptive. They prefer being prepared and proactive as opposed to being reactive to situations and dealing with crisis situations. And they want clarity for their family. These are the people who become members and remain members of the Elville Client Care Program year after year after year. And we have lots of members, of course, and we've had some members that have been with us for almost since our inception back in 2016. And we're very proud of that. And we developed great friendships with them and their families, and that's the way you want it. You want this partnership to work. So again, it's not for people that want to set it and forget it. They rarely review their financial situations. They don't want to engage with the law firm. They don't want to participate in reviews. And Steve Elville always says, and I'm sure you've heard him say this before, who likes maintenance and updating? Well, if you're part of the client care program, then more than likely you might not love it, but you see the intrinsic and important value that updating and maintaining your plan over time provides. So that partnership requires, just by its nature, it requires participation on both ends, on your end and that of Elville and Associates. So the Elville Client Care Program, it's synonymous with planning that works. I say that all the time. It's not something that you want to have work when it's, just when it's signed. You want it to work when it's needed. You want it to be not just a legally sound document, but aligned with your ongoing life, and not a one-time transaction. Always continually being intentional in those updates and your planning now and into the future. So there's a decision. Life is full of decisions, right? You can continue to be an owner of your documents, or you can engage in stewardship of one of the most important acts of love that you can do for your family and yourself, which is estate planning. Steve always says that estate planning is about love, and I completely agree with him on that, 110%. So enrollment, it's simple. It's very simple. On your end, work to do on my end, but I look forward to that. And the long-term benefits are, I would say, extraordinary. So a question, it's a simple question. If nothing changes in your planning over the next 5 years, 3, 5, 10 years, are you confident it will work as intended? Not hopeful. There's a huge difference between being confident and hopeful. So if nothing changes in your planning over the next 5 years, let's say, are you confident it will work as intended? Not hopeful, but confident. One of my favorite movie lines is from Andy Dufresne in The Shawshank Redemption. He says, hope is a good thing, maybe the best of things, and no good thing ever dies. So I will argue, and still, that being confident is better than being hopeful. You may disagree, but I will argue that point. So most people, they intend to review their plans, and that's very noble. But very few people put together or structure a sound way to do that, and that's what the client care program is for. And structure is what I would say turns that intention that you had or have into following through on a recurring basis. Cost of doing nothing, keeping things the way things are. So just doing nothing sometimes feels kind of natural, but it's not. In estate planning, you need to continually be proactive. And if you let it sit for 1 year, then 3 years, then 5 years, and say you're going to get to it, it's a kind of a cumulative effect where things progress or regress, I should say, over time. And so again, this is not a financial conversation. Enrollment, it's not a purchase. I would consider it a commitment from you to stay engaged with your law firm, and also from us. We obviously have a partnership in this and a vested interest in this, and your planning working. It's a commitment from us to stay accountable in many ways. And again, our members, they tend to be our clients that they value something structured over something that's more assumptive. They want to be prepared. They don't want to be reactive to situations. And they want clarity for their families, which is noble. I've got a family of myself, for myself at home, wife and 2 kids and 2 cats. The cats are not in my estate plan, and that is on purpose, and that is intentional. So your plan, you've worked hard on your plan over time. And very simply, if your plan deserves to be maintained, which it does, it deserves a structure to that end. That will be a means to an end. So 2 paths, owning a set of documents or stewardship, and both are choices, and only one is that intentional decision that we always talk about here at the firm. And again, enrollment's simple. If this aligns with how you think about being responsible with your estate plan and being responsible in general, I invite you to take the next step. If you are not interested, we can still move on and be friends. But if you want to take the next step, happy to speak with you, answer questions, and walk you through the process. Very straightforward. And I really appreciate your interest in our client care program. And so let's see if there are questions. I think I need to back out of my screen here and go back to the questions section here. So we'll learn this together, as I mentioned at the beginning. Looks like no questions. So I either answered everything that you could possibly want to know about the client care program, or just a quiet crowd today. So maybe a little bit of both. So we have some other webinars coming up, including a guardianship webinar in a couple weeks, planning with intention, which kind of goes along with the client care program discussion, and also estate planning and elder law essentials, all featuring Steve Elville, who obviously is a great educator, does a great job on our webinar series, and much more. So any questions, feel free to reach out to me directly here at the office. You can email me at jeff@elvilleassociates.com. My office line here, I have a direct line now, as of a few days ago, 443-832-2910, and I'll be sure to send all this information over to you in a brief follow-up message. So thank you so much for being here. Wish you all a happy and safe holiday weekend, and appreciate your interest in Elville and Associates. Have a great day.